Fame is often seen as a reward, but it does not stop with the person at its centre. It reaches outward, shaping the lives of those closest to it, far from public view. This programme is not about celebrity. It is about proximity. Donna Presley lived inside the shadow of fame, not as a public figure, but as family.
Hello everyone, I'm Donna Presley, and I'd like to welcome you to the Donna Presley YouTube channel. It is widely understood that Elvis Presley paid a price for fame. What is far less acknowledged is the cost carried by those around him, his family, beyond the lights and away from public view. For me, that cost led into places of darkness I could never have imagined. Others bore their own burdens in their own ways and in their own time. Their stories are theirs to tell. I can speak only for my own life and for the truth I lived. Silence in such circumstances is often misunderstood. It is mistaken for compliance, weakness, or an absence of the truth. In reality, silence is sometimes the only means of survival available, a way of protecting oneself, one's family, and what little remains intact. Speaking too soon can cost more than it restores, and so, for many years, silence was not a choice, it was a necessity. Before I speak of anything darker, it is important to understand how far from ordinary our lives had quietly drifted. Ours was, in many ways, a family rooted in normality. We worked ordinary jobs. We lived ordinary routines. We understood the world in familiar, grounded terms. And yet, at the center of our lives was one extraordinary exception. Elvis's life moved in an orbit unlike any other. An occupation so unusual that it bent the gravity around it. Though we stood at the edge of that world rather than inside it, the influence that was felt was the same. It altered perspectives, it reshaped expectations, and it introduced possibilities and pressures far removed from the quiet, anonymous life of my early childhood in Missouri. With hindsight comes clarity. I can now see that some of the choices I made might never have seemed reasonable or even available had my life remained anchored in that quiet beginning. Fame does not simply touch one person. It changes the landscape for everyone nearby, often so gradually that the shift is only recognized years later. The truth is, at the time, it all felt perfectly normal. It is only with the distance of advanced age that I can look back and fully understand how unusual that world truly was. I married fairly young, though for the era perhaps not exceptionally so. At the time, it did not feel rushed or ill-considered. It felt simply like the natural next step. What I did not question then, and only recognize now, is whether the surreal nature of the world we Presleys inhabited had any bearing on the man who became my first husband. As the marriage settled into daily life, it began to feel unexpectedly heavy. Responsibility rested largely with me, not through any single moment or conflict, but through the quiet accumulation of roles. I organized, I carried, I steadied. It became my instinct to ensure that everything functioned, that nothing fell apart. When our first child arrived, that imbalance became impossible to ignore. I found myself caring not only for an infant, but carrying the emotional weight of the household as well. It felt less like a partnership and more like tending to two dependents rather than a husband and a child. At the same time, my ties to family life at Graceland remained constant. I was there daily, for my grandmother, for my mother and my father and my sister, continuing the rhythm of care and responsibility that had always defined my place within the family. When my second child arrived, it was unplanned, but deeply wanted and profoundly loved. Yet as time moved forward, a quiet dissatisfaction began to take root. It was not sudden, not easily named. It unfolded gradually, woven into the rhythms of daily life. At the time, I neither understood nor could clearly separate the reasons for those feelings. There was no single cause I could point to, no moment that explained it all. My choices and the reasons behind them were not clear to me at the time. Looking back now, it seems evident that the environment in which I had grown up and continued to live must at least have shaped my thinking in the ways that I could not recognize at the time. Whatever else can be said, it was not a normal or ordinary existence. My uncle was the father of the most famous person in the entire world. My mother was his aunt. My grandmother was his grandmother. Fame sat within our family structure as something ever present, yet rarely questioned. People treated us kindly. Often, they treated us too kindly. But when you are living inside that world, you do not see it for what it is. You do not recognize that your surroundings and the way others respond to you are not typical. It is only much later that you understand how far from ordinary your world had become and how quietly that difference shaped the way you saw yourself, the way you perceived others, and the decisions you made, and the life unfolding around you. And then, in the midst of a life that was already unsettled, Elvis passed, and he was gone. In that single moment, every person who had formed my support system, my anchors, my points of stability, was compromised, overwhelmed, or simply unable to function in the ways I had always known. It was terrifying, it was traumatizing, and it was shattering. My cousin was taken out without warning, gone in a shock beyond language, and the family I loved most, my beautiful, closest family, was devastated and brought to its knees by grief. I was frightened, and yet, suddenly, I understood that I could not fall apart. I had to hold together. I had to become the support, their steadiness, their strength, even as my own world was breaking beneath me. Life did not return to balance after Elvis's death. It moved forward, but altered. Responsibility remained constant, grief unprocessed, and the quiet weight that I carried became part of daily experience. Over time, it became clear that my first marriage could not survive that altered reality. The decision to end it was not dramatic or sudden. It emerged gradually, as the understanding took hold that what I was living could no longer be sustained. After that marriage ended, there was no sense of resolution. Life continued in a state of uncertainty, shaped by loss, obligation, and the effort of standing upright when circumstances that still felt unsteady. During that time, I started to work in the office with Uncle Vernon. Supporting him became part of my daily life, steady, practical, and necessary. He was grieving. I was grieving. And in the work itself, there was purpose, routine, and a sense of doing what needed to be done for family. It was not a time of reflection, but of endurance, putting one foot in front of the other, helping to hold together what remained. It was later, beyond that period of work and responsibility, that I met the man who would become my second husband. And with that relationship, I entered the darkest chapter of my life. He presented himself as capable and reassuring, someone who appeared to understand the complexity of my world and the weight I carried within it. At a time when very little felt stable, his confidence felt grounding, his certainty felt like support. What revealed itself over the years and over time was something very different. The man who had appeared as a solution became a sort of chaos. Addiction, deception, and fraud replaced the steadiness I believed I had found. My name was used. Others were drawn into harm, and gradually I found myself living within a marriage marked by abuse, both mental and physical. What is often misunderstood is not only that such situations occur, but how those within them respond. I did not run. I did not remedy. I stayed. The reasons were complex. There was the weight of the Presley name, the instinct to protect what remained of its dignity after loss, and the fear of yet another public fracture. There was also the imprint of a deeply rooted Christian upbringing, one that taught patience, mercy, forgiveness, and the discipline of believing the best of people for as long as belief could be sustained. More often than not, it was the convergence of both. That chapter ended when my husband took his own life. For a long time, I believed those years marked me only by failure, as a wife, as the guardian of my name, as a woman who felt she should have known better. With time, I came to understand something else. I endured. I did not emerge untouched, but I emerged, and that's what matters. Resilience does not always announce itself as strength. Sometimes it reveals itself only in hindsight, in the quiet recognition that you are still here, you're still standing, and still capable of reflection and truth. I have often asked myself where that strength come from. Perhaps it was forged, paradoxically, within the very environment that distorted my sense of normality. The same world that carried unusual pressures also required endurance, loyalty, and an ability to withstand scrutiny and loss. What could have broken me also shaped the capacity to endure. That is the conundrum of fame at the edges of a family. It can lead you into places you never would have entered, and yet it can also form in you the resilience required to survive them. What I want to share, and what I pray reaches anyone facing overwhelming circumstances, is this. No matter how many times life knocks you down, you can get up with God's help. When you feel you may not survive, you will. When you believe your heart is breaking beyond repair, it will continue to beat. And when you no longer believe in yourself, when you feel you have failed everyone, when your name feels damaged and spoken of by people who do not know you, know this. You will come through. You will find yourself again. And you will realize that you were never absent from your own survival. So yes, fame changes all of us, even those it never directly touches. But there is something stronger than circumstance. With faith in God, faith in ourselves, and faith in everything that God holds mighty and good, good will prevail. What is tested is not destroyed. What is wounded is not lost. And what is rooted in truth, faith, and perseverance will, in time, endure. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And I hope that it touches and helps someone out there. Till the next time, God bless.
Fame is often seen from the outside. Living near it is different. This was one life shaped by that difference.